a small movement, we have to go up a little bit, right? So this has to be, again, it's not something that we have to put in a square and say, okay, this is this and this is this. No, but it means that when you're on the key, when you're playing, and you have to play on a black key, which is something probably from Beethoven and certainly Chopin, they all use, some of the black keys. I mean, so, but there are still some. I remember when I got my first job in New Mexico, I had many students who came and they looked at me like I was a witch. That I would ask them to give them fingering so that the thumb would be on the black keys. Like, oh no. I mean, can't do that. So I had, I sort of putting a note in my door saying, in this studio you can put your thumb on the black key. But so it's a completely different technique of, but you have to, especially with the music of today, thumb goes everywhere. But it has to be, again, the concept of the hand. And so you have to be aware in many instances that the thumb is actually short in relation to the other fingers. For example, when you do what I call a shift, and so if you do fast, I don't know if any of you can see, but when you go, I'll show you with the left hand, when you do this, right? Most of the time you will find much easier to play your thumb at the edge of the key, of the keyboard. Why? Because when you have to go left, right with you, right? My thumb is also able to release. If I play my thumb here, so if I play, yeah, I'm stuck there. So the idea of, so I can release my thumb and my third finger, fourth finger, second finger, anything that will come after will play so that you respect just about distance between the thumb. So the thumb will be here, and naturally unless you have extremely long fingers, but then even more, you will place, you see, you don't have to do anything. It will be a totally horizontal, only horizontal motion. No, none of this. But if you play your thumb in the middle, you will have to cross over, right? Which for me is works very well when you play slowly. So this is why when you work on something and it's a slow thing, this doesn't matter because you have plenty of time to do this and to reset after. The problem is not to cross. The problem is when you have something that goes like this. If you do this, then you have to reset. So the problem will be the next note because you won't be in alignment. But with the fourth finger and the fifth finger, so for example, when you do this, I personally will never play, I would always play so that my fourth and fifth finger are aligned here and aligned with the key. So that I have much more chance of having them play with the same sound as the other fingers, and my thumb is not going to go. If I do immediately when if my fourth finger is weak, that means if I didn't work on this, my thumb is going to go like this. So it's going to create a total chaos for a very short time in the hand. Right? So that's why for me I don't like chaos. In once I'm the keyboard, I want so that my ear, my brain, my whatever I want to express, so that my fingers are there. And there's no chaos, because when there's physical chaos, everything it's very difficult to sustain anything. So that would be for the finger. So you have to learn to stabilize or to feel. I don't think that the position of the finger. Some people play with finger like very very curved. Some people play with finger more open. I think that you will all find the natural, but the thing is that once you are in a position, you should be able to move the finger from here and a little bit from here, but with feeling the support that there's really a whole thing here that's going to support wherever they go, so that you can then bypass this and go and touch here. Okay, so that's for the fingers and the hand. So you have, for me, there's a lot of work, but I have to tell you that I know, for example, the exercise for the thumb is to really massage and become aware of the muscles that's going from here to the third finger. For some people, it goes a little bit further than the third finger, that even if it's attached to the bone. So everyone, again, every hand is different, but the basis of this is, so if you really feel this muscle, you will be able that you can open your hand, and that you can, so you will feel the opening, you know, little by little. It's almost like if you, and then you will feel also when you do this with your thumb, you're actually going to open your hand, and you're going to feel the connection between this. So this again is, it comes with spending time and being aware, becoming aware of knowing how your hand is, and how you can stabilize the fingers one at a time, and how you're gonna, when you play something, that the fingers, that for me it makes life so much easier, because the fourth and fifth finger don't feel at all like weak fingers, like many people are going to tell you that there's nothing you can do. Yes, you can work on this, and you can also work on your thumb, so that when the fourth finger plays, it doesn't take all the power. That's the main problem with the thumb. So, but you see, the thumb, like I was telling you before, the thumb should have had a keyboard here, and being able to play here. That would have been the natural, right? So it's like when you grab something, you grip something, the thumb is opposite, right? Piano is something completely different. So there's not really anything in any movement in life when we actually learn to have the hand as five, not five people, but five, so that's the unit, right? So the strength is here. Okay, so we go, for me, I'm telling you from here because it's easier, and also it's more important to really make sure that this works. Now, what do we have after the hand? The wrist. Okay. Now, the wrist is something, again, that I believe that should never be locked, right? But you should be able to be stable, so that if you, whatever you want to play, you will be able to stabilize it whenever necessary, or use it if you need to go left and right. Now, one of the ways for me to use, like, if I do something, an arpeggio, this is another thing that I see a lot. When you play chords, okay, no choice, you have to have everything in between the fingers. But when you play arpeggios, it's one note at a time. So if I play something like this, so when people will say, oh, it's this. It's not. It's this, and you're going to begin to move from your wrist, from your elbow, from your upper arm, so that you don't have to keep, right? So when you play an arpeggio, like if I this, right? So I'm going to have my third finger aligned with the G, and then I'm going to, right? So that's when the wrist becomes extremely useful horizontally. Okay, so that if I need to go like just this, or so to have these two fingers in front of the key, and never keep, unless it's a chord, never keep 1 and 2 when you play these fingers. So for me, there is no reaching. There's no because the fingers should always be brought wherever they need to be, by the wrist, by the elbow, by the pectoral muscle, by the back. Okay, so that if I need to go here, right, if I play the first sharp and enter it. Again, if I was you know, like this, I wouldn't have to go here, but I would use the wrist because my shoulder would be here, so I wouldn't have to calculate so that this is all here the same way as it is here, right? So the wrist, but the wrist often is going to work with the elbow. Now, what happens after the elbow? What moves the elbow? How do you move your elbow left and right? No, the one thing you in your movement, you're going this way. Keyboard is flat. Another problem on the piano, right? So if I'm going here, the easiest way to, for example, when you play this, right? There's not so much the notes, but it's the fact that my elbow is going to stay at the same level, right? So what do I move in order to do that? Because again, we have to deal with this, right? So what do you move? Yes, you move your pectoral muscle and your back, right? So this is a muscle that my own experience tells me that if I'm nervous or if I'm, you know, don't feel particularly whatever, solid, or, you know, the first reaction we all do, we lock this, right? Now, when you go left and right, this doesn't need to be locked at all. And so when you become aware enough so that you can feel that your upper arm is hanging from your shoulder, with the shoulder as a continuation of the pectoral muscle and the back, right? So that if I'm like standing up and you go to your instrument, what do you need to do? Wow. Well, okay, I'll sit down. I'll sit down. Okay, I'll sit down. And now, how do I do that? I think first that, like you show, you have to. Can you play the piano this way? And happily, again, the piano is here, right? So there is a rotation that has to happen so that you actually go this way, and then you go this way, or you can do this way and then, or this way, right? And then, right? So this is something that we're not aware anymore, right? But we should, because and this is something also that I realized not so long ago. This is the rotation that the body needs to do in order to have the hand in front, right? Then when people talk about rotation, which I talk about rotation a lot when we play, when we open this way, it's not rotation, it's a de-rotation. You get it, right? It doesn't matter, but I mean, so this is the first, the rotation that you're like naturally, I mean, not many people walk around this way. Some people do, so then don't have to do anything, right? You just go like this. But the body this is the natural position of the arms, right? Okay, so you have this, and so already you have to know, okay, so when people talk about being relaxed when you go and play the piano, there's no relaxation there. Already standing up, and as you say, I have to sit, so I have to use some muscles that I'm not laying down, right? So then we do this, we do this. Okay, so what are the muscles that are making us stay like this? Bicep, okay? So if I do this with my arm, I have to use. So anytime when you are on the piano, your bicep is engaged so that you stay there. Now, so that's you can stay like this for a long time. It's actually even easier to stay like this. But can we play the piano like this? No, piano is not here either. Right? So we have to lift the hand, and there will be again a certain tension in the elbow, so that we stay here, and so we can stay here. Right? And so then you move this, and if you're going to go left and right with your...
Привет! Сейчас мы рассмотрим лучший способ для поворота видео, то есть как сделать из вертикального телефонного видео горизонтальное компьютерное, или наоборот. Для этого будем использовать простой видеоредактор. В качестве примера буду использовать видеоредактор в Filmy. Скачать его можно по ссылке в описании, однако похожие функции есть и в других редакторах, поэтому можете использовать ту программу, которую хотите. И сейчас вы увидите, почему именно видеоредактор – это лучший способ для поворота видео. У нас есть видео из ТикТока, оно вертикальное и предназначено для телефонов. Давайте сделаем из него горизонтальное. Сначала добавляем файл в редактор плюсиком. Тут в Filmy можно добавить видео и прямо с телефона напрямую. Затем плюсиком на файле добавляем видео на временную линию таймлайн. Видим, что наше видео вертикальное. Чтобы повернуть его, первым делом меняем соотношение сторон нашего проекта. Нажимаем Settings, Preferences или Настройки. Соотношение сторон выбираем не 9:16, а 16:9 и разрешение 720. Окей. Теперь вокруг исходного видео появился черный фон. И если сейчас сохранить этот проект, выходное видео уже будет горизонтальное, но с черными полями по бокам. Можно сделать красивее, поэтому двигаемся дальше. В некоторых случаях видео снято вертикально по ошибке, и его достаточно просто развернуть. Для этого выделяем сцену на таймлайне и нажимаем карандашик Edit или редактирование. Перетягиваем ползунок Rotate на 90 или 270 градусов, а потом ползунком Scale масштабируем видео до нужного размера. И теперь видео повернуто полностью. В нашем же случае видео специально было снято вертикально, и такой поворот не подходит. Тут следует воспользоваться следующим приемом. Добавляем исходное видео на таймлайн дважды, чтобы оно повторялось. Соотношение сторон делаем горизонтальным 16:9. Затем перетаскиваем одно видео на вторую дорожку, чтобы одно видео было под другим. В любой из сцен заходим в редактирование, переходим на вкладку звука и убираем громкость в 0, чтобы звук шел только из одного фрагмента. Выделяем нижнее фоновое видео и нажимаем карандашик. Ползунком Scale масштабируем видео до нужного размера. И теперь видео следует, чтобы оно повторялось. Соотношение сторон добавляем исходное видео на таймлайн дважды, чтобы оно повторялось. Соотношение сторон делаем горизонтальным 16:9. Затем перетаскиваем одно видео на вторую дорожку, чтобы одно видео было под другим. В любой из сцен заходим в редактирование, переходим на вкладку звука и убираем громкость в 0, чтобы звук шел только из одного фрагмента. Выделяем нижнее фоновое видео и нажимаем карандашик. Ползунком Scale растягиваем его и перемещаем. Получается как-то так. После этого переходим в фильтры и добавляем эффект размытия на фон. Или еще какой-то фильтр, который поможет зрителю не сосредоточиваться на фоне, а смотреть центральное видео. И если содержание позволяет, то можно еще чуток увеличить нашу главную сцену. Кстати, преимущество делать это в видеоредакторе в том, что вы можете еще что-то добавить в видео. Например, реакцию, текст или еще что-то. И вот получается уже горизонтальный и в то же время красивый вариант исходного видео. И если же вам нужно из горизонтального видео сделать вертикальное, то делаем все то же самое, но наоборот. Для сохранения нажимаем кнопку «Экспорт». Выбираем формат, если нужно, настраиваем разрешение и качество. Стандарт – среднее качество, Best – самое лучшее. Тут, кстати, можно настроить и сразу сгрузку на YouTube автоматом. Когда все готово, нажимаем «Экспорт», ждем, и видео готово. Вам стоит учитывать, что у меня видеоредактор в Filmy активирован. В бесплатной версии он будет в ваше выходное видео добавлять еще водяной знак в углу кадра. Если же он вам понравится, приобрести полную версию можно на официальном сайте. Там часто, в том числе прямо сейчас, можно найти скидки и различные конкурсы. в которых можно выбрать как лицензии, так и различные гаджеты, например, iPad или квадрокоптер. Подробности смотрите по ссылке в описании. И если вам помогли советы из этого видео, напишите в комментариях. А также смотрите другие ролики на канале «Пока без проблем». У нас тут сотни выпусков по работе с компьютером и интернетом. До новых встреч в эфире.
Your arm so that you bring your fingers where you need to be, right? So if I do this, if I play like this, okay, I can play, but after a few pages, this is going to be perfect. Why? Because my fingers have to reach, right? So also then the sound changes, right? So it's not just that it's painful. So you have really the most important thing when you sit at your instrument and as a form of support is like, yes, you have the chair, so your butt is on the chair, you have your foot pedal, and then you have to use your torso more or less in relation to how wide you are. Okay, so if you're like this, then you would be here. You won't have to do anything. I have to move to get there so that my elbow and my hands are feeling as comfortable here as it is here. If I play, right? So maybe, so this will stay. So it's very important whenever you find a difficulty somewhere, so that your elbow doesn't go. Whenever you open your arms, and again, how much it depends, it changes depending the width of your shoulder. But you see, if I go like this, I'm going up. So when I'm higher than the keyboard, because I believe that the Chopin always said the elbow should be at the same level as the keyboard. So if I'm here, that's already somehow. So if I do this, so if I move from my hip to here, but keeping my core and keeping the the stability here and my left leg, then I'm fine. Right? So that the position, so you always have to, especially when you're looking for a certain sound, when you're looking to sustain a phrase, for example, you have to remember that it's like if you see someone, especially you can see children when they are watching TV, they are not tense, but they are intense and they're not moving. Okay, so there's the concentration is all the extra movement. Yes, we can do it when we're done. We can be very, but if you let your fingers concentrate in the contact with the key, you're not going to have all kind of movements. You have to respect and be aware, where's my keyboard? Where's the piano? So you have to adapt to the keyboard. And that's something that, the same thing the teacher used to call it topography of the keyboard. For if I play octave this like that. If I'm playing things on the that go, if I stay too far, I have to find an area here to play between white and black keys. So everything has to do with when you really go to the bottom of how do we move horizontally on the keyboard. Well, you have pivotation is one. So if I play this, right? If I have big hands and if I have big movement, if I don't play too fast, I'm going to use pivotation. So, or if I do this, right? So the fingers, after they release, they pivot. So that's one way. Another way is rotation. So if I go this way, right? So I'm going back to the natural position of my hand. And so this is something that anybody who works with rotation, your wrist has to be stabilized, because if you do this kind of thing, then there's nothing. Again, the movement has to come, the gesture has to come from here. So whenever it's possible, the physical gesture has to be. This is why Chopin, for example, is such a wonderful. It's an example that his musical gesture is the same as his physical measures. That means by reading the music, you learn how Chopin moved. And I believe that in all the composers that composed for the piano, that some of them, they were amazing pianists. And so you have to try to recreate their gesture. They're not just the fingers and the speed of the fingers and the depth, which is, by itself a huge chapter. I mean, it can take a long time to explain how. But so today is just the basis that I give you. But so the goal is when you know your instrument, you begin to feel the musical gesture, right, as a physical gesture or a pianistical gesture, whatever you want. Now you have composers that compose things that are not necessarily for the piano. So you don't have necessarily an easy, sometimes there will be chaos. For example, Schumann is one composer that I find it's difficult sometimes to adapt to his gesture, because the character of the music changes every bar sometimes, right? So the same thing when the same idea when you move to composer from the 20th century who has now this instrument. This becomes much more a question of vertical. Sometimes the music then the vertical wins over the horizontal. Okay, so that you have much more like a percussion instrument. Right? So when you play things that are whatever until even Debussy, I believe, had, I mean, yes, there was a piano, but it was a very light instrument that he worked with, like Payet, Dervaux. The French pianos are much lighter. So the pianistic and the physical aspect of it is something that you have to think. Okay, how do you produce the sound? It would be, for example, a very fast attack, a long pedal. So that will be part of the language of that composer. If you play Prokofiev, you have something much more vertical, much more angular a lot of the time. And sometimes you have huge melodies that are like, could be considered like Chopin's melody. So once you have the approach with your instrument, then you can begin to see, okay, what movement will create the sound, the physical gesture, if to create the musical gesture that I want. So it's not something that it's a little bit like playing with Play-Doh. You have to feel with your instrument that it is an instrument. Your fingers are an instrument of, for your brain, your ear, and your heart. But I can be highly intelligent and I hear very well. I have a world of listening inside, and I have a heart of gold. If I don't have the physical connection with the whatever one calls, people call it technique. For me, it's not a question of technique. It's a connection with how do I connect all these things with a physical way to play the piano. This, I think, is something that we always have to remember. In general, so I don't know why, but I think because we are all loner, we practice alone most of the time, right? We don't have much contact with other
Ну да,
pianists.
ну вот это, ну
And
так,
this
да.
is, you know,
Хорошо
like a
играет
place
он,
like
хорошо
here, it's
заехал,
wonderful
да.
because you can
Заехал, говоришь, он, да.
begin to, you know, ask each other questions or exchange fingerings. Fingerings is another thing that I think is extremely connected to that. And so a fingering would be wonderful for a person and maybe not, but sometimes to hear, oh, this person is using this finger. Okay, if I use this fingering, what, you know, what is the musical thing that I'm going to get that I don't have with this? Sometimes you have way of practicing certain things, way of thinking, right? But that's something with pianists that we have to be aware and not stay in our, you know, cubicle where we practice and, you know, and that's it. And so another thing that I think is not directly concerned with the technique of the piano, but the ear is, that I think, again, for all of you that I heard, you play the instrument, but you're not really saying too much, because a lot of the you're very concerned about the playing, right? So you have to make sure that you're listening so that you know what you want to hear when you go to the piano. So that listening to a lot of Beethoven symphony, Beethoven string quartet, orchestral piece, to have an idea, okay, I'm playing a Debussy prelude. Do I know how it has to sound? No, you have to know. You have heard and really listen to what's the sound. It's necessarily a gesture, but it's like, okay, how do at the piano do I imitate the sound of an oboe, or more a clarinet, or a cello, or a violin, or a singer, right? So the again, you can be absolutely wonderful in all the areas that you need, but if you don't really know how to use your instrument, this instrument, and this instrument, and this instrument, you're not gonna be able to, the people will not respond necessarily, right? So often I find that everyone has something to say, but they don't always know how to say it. And so for me, this whole aspect of physical aspect of playing, or pianistic, or whatever you want to use the word, is extremely important to also cultivate that. Not just but it's not enough. You have this, and then you have the ear, and so you have just to, there are many things. Like I said in the beginning, it's a tool, right? But it's an important tool. Okay? So now, anybody has anything that they want to ask me? Whatever it's a passage, whatever it's something
Что
that
там?
they have a
Что там?
question,
Бает.
I'll be happy to
Базара
answer
нет,
any
бает.
question. Yeah?
You spoke about almost in the answer there between the fingers.
Yeah, you can check if you look in the, you can even see on the web, whenever.
I already read a book today about this, but I didn't really understand. I read just about stability of the hand. But so are they connected with both fingers?
No, I'm not talking about the tendon. The tendon that we're talking about, there are some. I personally don't think that it's important at all. What is important is the muscle. There are separate muscles here and here, right? So it's the muscle basically that if you have a strong muscle like here, you see you have most everyone has these two bones. So what it is the strong muscle. Right? But it's a muscle that goes this over the. So it begins, I think, somewhere.
Алло?
1, 4,
Чё?
0,
Куда идешь ты? Я не
4,
понял.
9.
Куда пошла? Ну, все говорят, да. Да наоборот. Да наоборот. Да наоборот. Да наоборот. А, все, 11 уже. Ну да. Это и есть на самый, да. Так нет, он что, помнишь меня, что ли? Да, он тебе про себя и говорил, наоборот, только. Да, да. Никит. Ну вот нам, да. А, ну да. Двойная просто. Вот это вот это. Что это значит-то? Нет, он себе так думает. Понимаете, на тебя просто ожидает. Да, понимаю. Да, понимаешь. Да наоборот, значит. Что это так почему-то? Ничего не надо, включать не надо. Чуть-чуть. Джи-джи только. Малёху такой сделаю. Да наоборот, она... Да. Он самый, да. Ну да. Слишком это же сейчас шутка. Ну, нормально. Все, стопочка. Стопочка. Давай руку. Стопочка. Сюда. Мы наоборот. вот это и есть. Да. Наоборот. Позволите. Наоборот. Наоборот. Предварительность свойств. Предварительность свойств. Ну ладно. А что, ничего нет?
Muscle basically that if you have a strong muscle like here,
Да
you see,
наоборот, он это имеет в виду. Да наоборот, просто. Ладно, так нет, да. Нет, ну, нет. Нет, он тебе не. Наоборот. Да. Ну это и есть наоборот. Да, конечно. Ну вот это и есть на самом деле. Да, закрыть нет. Да. Да наоборот, да наоборот. Вот наоборот. Да, вот
Громкие скидки, бой стадион, черная пятница, настоящий.
наоборот. Да, понимаю. Да. Я не знаю, как я это могу. Не знаю, ладно, да. Так нет, так наоборот. что за бред? На себе так думает. Так, я говорю, я тоже, да. Так. Да. Ну нет, о себе вдохновение. Вдохновение. Ну это есть он самый, так не. Вот это. Это же